Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Confident Leaders Show, Thinking Differently. I have an esteemed guest. Her name is Sharon Weinstein. Welcome, Sharon.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for having me today. I'm delighted to be here.
Yeah, so am I. You've got a lot to share. You have this incredible background. I want to just share with everyone that you've been coaching executive leaders and systems for over 3 decades. Transformational change, working through a lot of issues over the last years. We are also co authoring a book together called Thinking Differently. And I am so excited today, Sharon,
So am
because
I.
we're specifically going to talk about how to prevent toxic work environments. There's a lot of them out there, and there's a lot of leaders that don't know that they may be creating toxic work environments, and we've got a lot of employees out here that are feeling like they may be working in a toxic work environment. So I want you to share a little bit more about yourself, and then I want to jump into this hot topic of how do we even know we're working in a toxic work environment. So tell us a little bit more about yourself, Sharon.
Sure. I began my professional career in nursing. Nursing for me over the past, I don't even want to tell you how many decades, has created a platform that has allowed me to impact lots of lives in many ways. I've worked in administration. I've worked in every area of the hospital. I've done a hospital build out in the former Soviet Union. I have done it all. And from the clinical space to academia to wherever, I have truly reaped the rewards of working with amazing people who have maximized their potential and become great leaders. Even a 14-month nurse who then became the chief nurse of the Ministry of Health after obtaining a doctoral degree. You have no idea the impact that you have on others as a leader. And it's been my joy, personally and professionally, to contribute in that way.
Yes. And I know you've done a lot of work in transformational change, specifically around addressing culture and really how to reduce these toxic work environments that create fear and anxiety for employees. So I want to start off first. Let's talk about the leader who is probably maybe unaware that they actually are creating a toxic work environment. So, what would you say to a leader who may not really understand why people are leaving them or maybe not showing up at work, and it could be a toxic work environment? What would you share with a leader like that who maybe just totally not quite aware that's happening?
Well, first of all, Dina, as a clinician, you know that I believe that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's easier to prevent something than to fix it after. If
Mhm.
one is virtually unaware that this is existing and doesn't even realize why people are leaving, perhaps they're not in the right seat in the right place on their bus. Perhaps they
Mhm.
feel disrespected because maybe it's personal and it's childcare issues or feeling disrespected or no opportunity for advancement or not enough flexibility to choose their hours, whatever it is, it all contributes. Those kinds of conditions contribute to toxicity. But I
Mhm.
believe that a leader needs to start with communication, needs to look internally at what they are doing to communicate to their team that they value them, that they respect them, that they recognize the attributes that they bring to the
Mhm.
program and to their outcomes, and how
Mhm.
important they are in the workplace. If you don't start looking within,
Yeah.
you'll never be able to understand what's happening on the outside.
Yet, and you have to be okay with that. Sometimes a lot of people don't like to do that because looking internally inside yourself as a leader is probably one of the hardest things that all of us have had to do over time. But by stepping into that place and looking internally, it does lend different questions, asking different questions. And I want to go to the employee now. So let's talk about the employee that may be experiencing some fear or anxiety, and how would they know, and how would you suggest to them to handle that toxic work environment?
Well, first of all, a toxic work environment contributes to stress levels, makes it practically insurmountable.
Mm-hmm.
Studies that were done almost years ago indicate that 70% of the stress associated with our lives evolves from work.
Mm.
Work should be a place to go where we feel as if we're making a maximum contribution, we're contributing value, we feel appreciated. We go home, we feel as if we've done a really good day's work, and that someone, somewhere, in some way has benefited as a result of what we have created, done, provided, whatever we have masterminded, whatever we have done, we've contributed value to the lives of others. We
Mm-hmm.
should never feel as if, oh no, woe is me. I can't stand another day at this location. There is no way that I can even show up. and put a smile on my face and contribute because I just don't want to be there. For the employee who feels that, who recognizes that something is amiss, something doesn't fit, that employee needs to be able to go either to a human resources department, to human capital department, or
Mhm.
to their own supervisor and have that very difficult conversation. The
Yeah.
challenge is, you and I both know, Dina, that people don't want to have the conversation.
Right.
They don't
Both
want to have the
sides.
conversation because of fear of retribution, because of fear of retaliation, because of fear
Right.
of dismissal, because after that, they won't be considered a team player,
Right.
because they'll be overlooked and it will make the situation even more toxic than it is now.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And there is something to be said for the courage to be able to step in for the things that you want and you need. And I am seeing a big global kind of a pandemic for employees not having the confidence to speak up and even asking for what they want. And they're
Mhm.
under so much stress, they don't even have clarity around what is it do I really want? What do I really need? So going back to, taking time to think, I would love to know, with your experience over the years, how many people even take time to think?
They don't think. We only use such a small percentage of our brains all day long
Hmm.
that if we don't delve deep within our own subconscious, we will never be able to ask the right questions, to solve the right problems, to get the right solutions.
Right.
Half of what we do is involved in the ask. If we
Yeah.
don't ask, you and I both know the answer will always be no. I tell people I wouldn't be married if I hadn't asked. Somebody has to ask first, right?
I love it.
Everything that I've had in life, I have asked for
I love it. I love
because
it.
I always knew that the
Mhm.
answer would be no if I didn't put myself out there.
Right.
And was I afraid? Yes. Many, many times in my professional career, I have feared the outcome.
Hmm.
And I'm sure lots of people feel this every single day of their lives.
Yeah.
But by learning how to think differently, by repositioning ourselves,
Hmm.
by using all of our brain all of the time,
Hmm.
we're able to ask the right questions that get us to the right answers, that get us to the solutions we need to decide, should we move on within and perhaps change jobs internally,
Hmm.
find a fit that is better for us, or
Hmm.
maybe look elsewhere, or maybe go solo,
Yep.
maybe become an entrepreneur, or just move on.
Yeah. And with your healthy nursing background, for people
Mhm.
that are struggling from burnout, and I know you've got a lot of resources and talk about burnout a lot. What are some signals for people when they know, or at least they think they could be burned out? What are those signals?
Signals start with headaches, start with blurred vision, start with dehydration, start with not getting good nutrition, not taking time for breaks. I always tell people you cannot drink from an empty cup. You cannot do that to yourself.
Hmm.
It's not
Yep.
about a glass being half full or half empty. It's just taking care of yourself, making sure that you take care of your biological clock from a standpoint of a biological break. There
Hmm.
is no purpose in working 8-hour shifts or 8-hour time frames without taking a break for yourself,
Hmm.
without getting up from your desk and walking away,
Hmm.
without going out into the fresh air. So when you have headaches, when you have blurred vision, when you feel tired, when your joints hurt, when
Hmm.
you feel depressed,
Hmm.
when you know that something's not wrong, but you can't quite put your finger on it, and
Yep.
you have that feeling, I cannot go to that office or to that place of employment one more day, you're there. You've
Hmm.
reached that point.
Yes. And I think that has a lot to do with our reactive responses, both as an employee within an organization and as a leader. So if you've got all of this dance going on, it creates this incredible toxic work environment and being able to overcome some of these hard business decisions that people need to really, decide, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to evolve? And how do we keep the, agility of the organization intact? It's very much of a difficult thing to do. I want to talk just a little bit about what would you tell a lot of people out there who are perfectionists, and are working for that perfect piece before they make a move or even ask for what they need or want.
You're asking an interesting question, okay? I tell people, don't let perfect ever get in the way of good. Good works. Don't let perfect get in the way. It doesn't need to be perfect. It does need to be perfect if you're doing brain surgery, yes.
Yep.
It does not need to be perfect if you're putting together a spreadsheet.
Yep.
And you have time to make adjustments, or you could do what needs to be done to make it really, really the best that it can possibly be.
Yes.
But don't let perfectionism get in your way.
Yeah.
Do what you can, know your limitations, but set those boundaries. Be able to say to yourself, I can do this much, but I can't do more. I can get this much done today, but I can't stay the entire weekend and work at 24/7. You know, those 36-hour shifts, that used to work when you were under 30, Dina. I found out at age 40 that it stopped working.
No, it doesn't
You
work.
can't do that anymore. And I
Right.
found it out by working abroad and trying to be on 24 hours a day there and on 24 hours a day responding to my colleagues at home.
Yes.
You cannot do it. It doesn't work because something goes amiss.
Yes.
Something doesn't work. Something is neglected. In the
Yes.
healthcare space, that can result in devastation. It can result in loss of lives. We never want to compromise our outcomes and the safety of others because we let perfect get in the way of being good.
Yes. And I do think, you know, that other piece that you talk about, which I think is very, very important, is, you know, we let this go for a long time, whether that's the fear of speaking up, whether that's the fear of not taking control, maybe it's perfectionism. Eventually, there's a biological response to our health. And that's what we're starting to see a lot more of, is because people are feeling like they don't have a choice, that they can't control some of the things that are happening, and it does create, you know, other health issues down the road. You know, women, if your hair is falling out, it's a signal. If you can't remember where you parked your car, that's probably a signal. If you can't sleep, if intimacy is getting, you know, in the way and it's not enjoyable anymore, how many different things come in the way of what stress is. But this biological response is something that we really can't control. So it all starts with how we manage stress, how we manage fear, and then for leaders, how they're managing their stress, how they're managing their fear.
Exactly.
Is
But you're
really,
right, Dina, that biological response to stress affects every organ and system in our bodies,
it does.
every single one.
It does. And bottom line, it affects the revenue of your company. So if you want people to show up, if you want people to feel like they're valued, they are heard, you're going to have to start answering some of the right questions, and you're going to have to think differently. So I'd like to
Absolutely.
just kind of circle back around and just give a closing comment from you, Sharon. You know, what is one thing that you would like for people to take away from our very short session today around preventing toxic work environments and making sure that people show up to work?
Well, first of all, when you said if you want people to show up, I don't want them to show up just to take up space. I want them to show up and be 100% on during the time that they're there. So my advice would be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem.
Oh, I love that. Exactly. And you have to do some deep introspection to ask yourself, are you a part of the problem, or can you be a part of the solution? So we're
Exactly.
going to reach out to all of you out there that are listening to this broadcast today. Ask yourself some good questions. Stay in the truth of your narrative and making sure that you're challenging yourself to think differently. Thank you, Sharon Weinstein, for joining us
Thanks.
today. It's a great time to spend with you today and talk about those things that we know are really important to everyone.
Always a pleasure, Dina. Thank you.
Take care.